Hello, Toledo. I am still setting up. One sec. Actually, you know what? Maybe full screen camera, I guess, for now. Huh. Why am I not getting my Twitter stream? Oh, I have to select the source, of course. Right, that makes total sense. I guess I need to tweet about it somehow. Post. Wait. Was it? Wait, what? Oh, promoted only. Okay. Man, Twitter is so confusing. It makes no sense. But anyway, time to go transparency mode. Where's my chair? Yeah, that's a good question. Where's my chair? It's a long story. Let's just say there's no chair. No chair. Hello. So, hello, Jacob Lee. Hello, Teufel. Hello, Regalias. How many platforms today? Today we have YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I'm stopping at 3 for now, but you know what? We gotta expand. We gotta expand. More streams, more viewers, more comments, more engagement, more everything. More of every single thing. Now again, obviously chat doesn't fucking work. Why would chat work, right? Oh shit, I discovered something interesting. Okay. Chat on Twitter still busted. Oh no, it's not busted. What? It loads today. Mind blowing. Yeah, just more. Let's stop being tied down by focusing on what of we want more of. Just more. If they want to chat, they should come here. So the devil, you're a Twitch supremacist, huh? uh, but I would agree. You know what? Twitter sucks. Twitter just sucks. 360 degrees. So, oh, you know what? So, wait. At least since chat works, let's add it. You do work, right? Loading. But you know what? I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. Holy shit, it did connect this time. So we can have it. But here's what we can do, okay? Look, we don't like it, so we make it tiny. I guess this is the limit for YouTube. It's unfortunate that this browser is great, but I wish, my only wish is that it supported also horizontal tiling and not just vertical. And what I mean by that, it has a horizontal mode, but like you basically go everything vertical and then everything horizontal. You can't like say, oh, you know what? I'll put these two things in one, like it'll split this column in half. It doesn't work, unfortunately. It would be nice if it did. In any case, yeah, Twitch rules. So, what do we want to do? I guess we want some music. So here I have Lofi. Let's do chiptune. Is there is that a topic? Maybe. Dance of Pixel Birds seems on topic. I'll take it. So, what's our plan for today? Our plan for today is to now have the templating language work again. Right now, the templating language is depending. So I started briefly the work yesterday night, just very briefly. Did almost nothing, but I did a little bit. So you know what? Maybe I'll use Lorian to explain. Also, you know what? Before I explain, let's give it, I don't know, a few minutes so that more people show up. Also, fuck, I haven't announced my stream on Discord. Should probably do that, huh? You know what? I'm thinking that maybe this role should be expanded to everybody who wants to stream. I don't know. Anyway, hey, so Alicious, guess who released language bindings yesterday? Which language bindings? Wait, what are you talking about? Language server watch time. Oh wait, are you talking about your language? Zig bindings for Capstone. I keep forgetting what's Capstone. I'm sorry, can you give me a refresher? Hello, Zig question. I started to write some code in Zig, and apparently almost every external library requires an allocator to let internal stuff allocate memory. I'm asking if you ever found it useful to specify different allocations for different libraries. Ooh, Talebo. The answer is absolutely. And I totally want to answer your question, but here's the plan, okay? Give me 5 minutes to announce the stream on a couple of Discord servers. Then I want to make myself some tea so I'm caffeinated and high energy for you guys. And then I'm happy to answer your question. Disassembler framework. Oh, right. Nice. You know what? I'll just share the Twitch link because I'm assuming that whoever sees this will still prefer Twitch to YouTube anyway. So whatever. So hello MouseX. Hello. Streams here. I've tweeted. Other socials probably can make do with less going live spam. So we should be good. Okay. So tea, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Let's see. Do. Okay, so in order, answer question, and then explain what I'm going to do today. Since when we have this? Oh my god. Okay. I learned that every stream is a bathtub stream when you're in one. Life hack. Nice. So that's the correct way of enjoying Twitch. So do you ever care about giving weird allocators to libraries? I would say it's not just libraries. I would say within the same application or even within the same I guess library in Zig, what we call what would be like a package in other languages, or or maybe a library we tend to call a module. So a thing that has a coherent, it's a subset of functionality that you can ship inside of a package. In Zig, a package can contain Zig modules, C libraries, executables, various assets. Like you can put a ton of weird stuff in a Zig package. And so a module is like a piece of Zig code that you import not from a file but from a name. So you have to write this as a dependency inside your build.zig, and then you import it with a name. So I'm just specifying this. I assume that's what you meant with library. I just wanted to specify the terminology. So even within the same module, it makes sense to occasionally use different allocators. I'll give you one example from my current use case, the language server. So in my current language server, I have this structure where basically, so this is an HTML language server. So you write HTML in an editor. The editor knows to spin up your language server, gives updates to the language server about what it is that you're writing, and then the language server gives you back diagnostics and auto formatting and other stuff. So that means that the loop in which the way in which communication happens is that you have a request response system. The client sends you requests and you give responses from your LSP. And so, for example, this nice API here, let me find an example that it might be more interesting. So this nice API here is basically, basically I'm using a dependency called Zig LSP Kit that implements all the communication boilerplate and just offers me callbacks. So I have to implement open document, where I implement my logic whenever a document gets opened. And then most of the communication stuff, like most of the LSP communication boilerplate, is abstracted away. And here you can see that I am receiving an arena allocator. By the way, this is an allocator interface, so it's not the implementation. I'm still receiving a normal allocator, but the fact that it's named arena, it's meant to suggest the intended use of this allocator. And this is an allocator that will be automatically reset by the LSP library, LSP Kit library, because it's an allocator where you put temporary stuff only for these requests. Now, maybe this might be not immediately obvious if you're not familiar with what LSPs do, but think about a web server. In a web server, you have a request response way of doing things most of the time, at least for basic stuff, not WebSocket stuff. And so in there, it would make total sense to have a specific route handler to have or either receive, depending on how you implement the API, or in any case, make use of an arena allocator, because the request will have to allocate potentially temporary data, formulate an answer, a reply, send the reply to the client, and then every other intermediate allocation can be freed. And it doesn't even have to be freed individually. It can be freed in bulk, and that's what arena allocators give you. An arena allocator, maybe I should have led with this. An arena allocator is a specific type of allocator that has one big chunk of memory and puts allocations inside this chunk of memory one after the other without keeping track. It doesn't have bookkeeping for individual allocations. And so when you free something from an arena allocator, it doesn't get freed. It stays there until the arena allocator itself gets either freed the entire chunk of memory or it gets reset, where you decide basically to keep the allocated memory, but you put the watermark back to 0, essentially freeing all the previous items. This obviously assumes that you don't intend to keep references to things that were allocated in an arena allocator after you reset it. So in a web situation, request response makes total sense, because you receive a request, maybe fetch something from a database, fetch 10 rows from a database. You need to allocate memory on the heap for those 10 rows. So you put them in an arena, you get your 10 items in there, do some math, do some processing, whatever, come up with a reply for the client, and now the arena can be reset. Now, it might be, it's not common, but it might be that maybe you're writing a web server where stuff instead needs to survive a request reply cycle. And at that point, you cannot use an arena allocator. You need to use a different allocator. So here, in fact, I have this problem, because basically what's happening here is that in this specific case, open document is only when I see that a client, well, that an editor has opened up a file, I want to save that file, but it has to survive longer than just this request reply cycle. So I actually use self.gpa to have a long-lived allocation of the document, because again, it has to survive this request reply cycle. Let me see instead another example where I do use the arena. There might be none, because this LSP doesn't do much. It only does very basic stuff. Formatting. Yeah, it doesn't do it here either, I believe. Yeah, it uses self.gpa because when we format, we want to keep around also the formatted thing. But let me give you another example. So this is a different example where I have more stuff. I also have, like, this is another LSP for another language, but that one also implements stuff like auto-completion suggestions. So let's see. I don't think that auto-completion allocates, but other things do. So for example, let me see. You know what we can do? Oh, there we go. So auto-completion, whenever we receive a request to autocomplete something, we need to take a look at where the cursor is. So the client tells us, look, the user wants autocompletion suggestions by having the cursor at this position. So we find out where is that, how far is into the file. Then we ask, we grab the AST. We call completions for offset. Oh, it's not there. It's in... wait a second. It's in AST. Oh, right. The completions for offset inspects internal state to decide what to return. But then what we need to do is to basically turn these internal representation of what the suggestion should be to the exact type that LSP wants. And so we need to basically heap allocate an array of these things and then copy over copy and adapt, right? Because we need to set other things that are like LSP specific. Other fields, other state. So we copy them over and then we return that completion list. And then that gets sent to the client, and then the library knows that it should reset the arena. So these are two cases, for example, where sometimes you want to pass an arena, sometimes you want to pass a normal allocator. Now, it's not just like arena versus normal allocator is probably the most important dichotomy in this sense. in terms of allocation, you will most often either have a normal, so general purpose allocator, malloc style of allocating versus an arena, but sometimes you will have even more nuanced and specific allocation patterns. For example, another pretty good one is it's the stack fallback allocator. So the stack fallback allocator, it's an allocator that, so it offers an allocator-like interface, but it doesn't immediately go on the heap. It has a size that you can decide yourself, a number of bytes on the stack, so that are always going to be available to you every time you basically create it, every time you get into a function that declares one of these guys. And those bytes basically can be used from the stack without doing heap allocation. But then when that space runs out, then it goes on the heap. This is good when you are in situations where you expect most of the time to have very simple needs, where you need to allocate like a very small value, and only rarely you need to instead have to allocate so much that you need to go on the heap. So here's an example. And the point of doing this is that if you get to stay on the stack, you're more performant. Like basically, it's a performance optimization. So let's say that you're, I don't know, like you're a CLI and you're accepting user input, right? You give the user like a command line, or you ask the user, I don't know, give me your name. So one thing that you can do is like you can allocate 100 bytes on the stack, and which is not a lot, but it might be enough to basically account for most names. And most of the time, you will be able to allocate their name on the stack and not have to worry. Occasionally, somebody will show up with a very long name, and in that case, then instead of erroring out because your stack memory is not enough, you have this abstraction that kind of semi-transparently to you puts stuff instead on the heap. That's it. There's more allocators, but I think these three examples are the most interesting ones. So general purpose allocator is the first one. Arena allocator is the second one. And then you have what is it? Well, you have a bunch of those. They're all quirky and interesting in their own ways. So, but what I would say is start by using GPA. As you get more used to Zig, so you said that you started Zig recently, right? So I would say don't over focus too much on this type of stuff necessarily. Like, I'm not saying ignore it completely, but like don't hyper focus on. I would say familiarize yourself, be aware of GPA, general purpose allocator, the equivalent of malloc, and arena allocator. Leave the other ones there. Maybe read what it is that they do, but like don't worry about it too much. Over time, you will become more used to thinking about memory, usage strategies. And at that point, you will find that these other allocators might become more interesting because you will happen to have the specific use case that could benefit from one of them. But in the beginning, it's like a premature optimization of your learning curve. Like get used to general purpose allocator, then branch into arena allocator, and after that, maybe look into the other ones. Actually, you know what? I'll take one. I'll say just one last thing. I default to arena allocator, page allocator. I don't know if it's a good idea to give a page allocator to arena. I think you should give it GPA. I don't think it's gonna be like game breaking, but I think you should give it GPA. What is heap allocator? I don't know. Let's go find out. It's a map. Wait, Jacob Lee, what's the difference then between heap allocator and GPA? Oh, I think I get it. GPA uses heap allocator normally, except on like on weird OSs and stuff. Is that the idea? Although, no, I remember the GPA implemented the logic directly, unless it has like extracted out. GPA is implemented in Zig but gets memory from a backing allocator that defaults to heap allocator. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. Jacob Lee had the full answer. Wasn't GPA a memory allocator that was mostly used to detect main links? No, GPA is the general purpose allocator. I think the problem with GPA is that, as far as I remember, unless this has changed recently, it's not like performance-wise super giga good. It's like fine, but if you need performance today, GPA will fall short of malloc. I think the plan is to eventually have GPA be roughly as good as malloc. The last thing that I wanted to say, though, is that sometimes you have to use a different type of allocator, not because of flavor, but because that's what you have to do. For example, the WASM page allocator, I believe. Actually, can you use GPA? Actually, where's the WASM allocator? Okay, WASM allocator. So if you're on WASM, you should be using WASM allocator because it's meant to work well in the WASM environment. This is intended to be merged into general purpose allocator at some point, which, by the way, also see comment. Okay, so I think we went through all the most important things about allocators and stuff. So, but I do think that Arena assumes that the allocator that you're giving it to it is not the page allocator. I might be wrong, and it might not make much of a difference, but I think that's the case. Child allocator row alloc. Okay, so what about Comptime interfaces? I don't think that Andrew thinks that those are not a good idea. I think I've heard him talk about potentially even implementing something like this in the future. I think that he didn't have certainty that those are a good idea in Zig up until now, so that's why they haven't been implemented and they're not in the language. But I don't think he's necessarily against. Now, that obviously does not guarantee that those are going to come to Zig, but I don't know. I would say that as far as I'm aware, there is no strong anti, full like final decision on those interfaces, just not being prioritized. Heap allocator is Windows only. Oh. I would be curious to see the use case for Comptime interfaces. I would say the main use case is to, provide out of the box better readability than any type and better readability than any type and something like better error messages when a type doesn't conform to an interface. We kind of have that with things like any reader, any writer, right? Yes, but any reader, any writer basically are the opposite of Comptime interfaces. Any reader and any writer are completely type erased types. So like you can have any reader. Oh god, you can have various kinds of readers become an any reader by basically type erasing all their informations and turning just into a pointer to the basic reading function. A Comptime interface instead I guess the point is that there are different practical trade-offs. So at a very high level, yes, you get some of that by having something like any reader and any writer. But mechanically, there are some distinctions between what you get from any reader and any writer versus what you might get from a Comptime interface. Case in point, any reader and any writer are a kind of runtime are a kind of type erased runtime polymorphism. Now that Carmen, the allocator is not listening. Why was alloca removed? Was it ever in the language? Alloca? Is alloca the allocation? Is that the malloc that allocates on? Well, malloc is that? I guess I don't know. It's not malloc. Is that the thing that allocates on the stack? If it ever was in the language, yeah. So if it ever was in the language, it's. The thing is, like, it's just bad. Don't do it. I guess that's the point. Don't fucking do that shit. We have fixed buffer allocator. Yeah, but the fixed buffer allocator is not an equivalent of alloca. Or rather, let me put it this way. So Alicia is in writing saying that there's a relationship between FBA and alloca, and some things that you maybe could previously implement using alloca, you can now implement using FBA, and it's kind of better, period. But then alloca, I don't know. Listen, the whole point of the fucking stack is that you know beforehand how big things are, and then you go and you start growing it dynamically for no good fucking reason. So, like, don't do that. Just put the fucking thing on. Either have an upper bound and use FBA, or don't have an upper bound, put it on the heap and call it a day. And apparently allocator is not thread safe by default, right? That depends on the specific implementation, not on the interface. The interface doesn't declare anything, but I believe the GPA is thread safe. Don't know about the other ones. And we can look at the config. Let's see. Enable memory limit, safety, thread safe. Whether an allocator may be used simultaneously for multiple threads. So thread safe defaults to being thread safe if you're building your application not single threaded. If you're building your application with a single threaded flag, then it knows to turn off the mutexes or whatever locking mechanism it has. But that's like a more nuanced thing. Setting that aside, the base thing is look at the implementation. The implementation will tell you how it works. And in the case of GPA can be configured, and its default configuration is to be thread safe. So for performance, you could actually toggle it off. Where are some allocators Pascal case, what some are snake case? A type that you are expected to kind of like instantiate is Pascal case. Well, it's not only Pascal. Is it the? It's Pascal case. But they live inside namespaces. So arena allocator with the uppercase A's is the actual struct that you want to implement. But they live inside namespaces where they sometimes have not just themselves. So for example, here, the arena allocator namespace contains a definition of arena allocator, and maybe it might contain tests. Okay, so in this case, it's not interesting. They basically just implemented the type inside a dedicated file called arena_allocator.zig. But sometimes you get stuff like, let's see what, let's see if any of the other ones has anything more interesting. Like GPA here, for example, declares, hey, yeah, okay. So for example, here, the general purpose allocator namespace declares both general purpose allocator itself and a check type and a config type. What about page allocator? Let's go find out. So page allocator and CAllocator, they're not types. If you look at the source code, they are instances of the allocator interface where the vtable is set to a specific instance of that vtable. So basically, the idea is this. Page allocator is actually like, at its core, it doesn't have any state. Page allocator is just a syscall. But it has to be wrapped into the allocator interface. But let's take a look at what we're doing if normally. Like here, page allocator.vtable, right? Page allocator.vtable points to... Oh, it implements the alloc function straight up. Oh, yeah. So it's a function. So basically, long story short, these are underscore because they're just instances of other types. They're not type definitions. And the reason why page allocator is not a type definition is because it doesn't need to do any bookkeeping. Page allocator only fetches... Oh, it basically, it's all syscalls. It doesn't do any bookkeeping. So... CAllocator is the same. CAllocator, where are we? In std.heap. Apparently, there's an uppercase CAllocator type, but it's private. But this guy, does it have any... It doesn't really have any real state management. Wait. I think that this guy shouldn't even be uppercase. And this guy is a namespace. Oops. Yeah, this guy's a namespace. It shouldn't be uppercase. Oh, well, it has this anyplace health thing. Well, in any case, that's kind of the idea. Okay, any more Z questions? Keep on coming. Any more Z questions? I'm happy to answer more. Otherwise, I'm gonna go and start my main project. How did I break the linker? Did you... Okay, so a question for you. Did you get the user agent right? By the way, it's a joke based on this post that I was reading earlier. Linker compatibility and user agent problem. So basically, this is I don't know if I call it a complaint, but it's like a blog post where basically they're pointing out that linkers need to advertise their compatibility with other systems by lying and saying that they are another thing, or somehow express compatibility in a very stupid fucking way. So for example, because of their tooling will test for compatibility by doing things like, for example, LLD here, if you call -- version, it tells you compatible with new linkers. And then you have other things like Mason, and Mason calls version and then expects to find this string. Otherwise, it will assume some other type of behavior. And apparently, at some point, these people removed in LLD version, I don't know, something. Oh, Jesus. Or apparently, depending on the value of this fucking environment variable, they take out... They change the format of the version string, taking out the parentheses, and so this check started failing because they took out the parentheses, and this guy wanted also the parentheses, and so they had to change it. Don't require this thing to be enclosed in parentheses. LVM in this PR changed the LLD version printout to no longer be enclosed in parentheses, which made Mason fail to detect the linker style used here. 4 days ago. Thanks and sorry for the overly specific check. We can at least try backporting it to all the releases for the benefit of people who backport backfixes though. We are currently in RC2 freeze, so only Mason regression bug fixes should be merged. These do not really qualify as such. Oh, project manager chiming in. We can't really take it out anymore, but you should have gone the usual main consider for 1.1 root. I don't know, man. It's like, dude, come on. Just change the fucking version string thing. It's removing two parentheses. I know it's release candidate. There might be horrible breakages by changing that string literal slightly, but come on. You can take the risk. But apparently not. Sorry. Felt extremely more safe than usual, given that it didn't even touch any logic. Only broadened the string search, which is still very distinctive. Like, I don't know, man. Honestly, this is with all due respect. Like, I understand the value of process, but this whole exchange reminds me of. Let me see if I can find it. How did we go to this song from Cheap Tune?
Good morning, everyone. I've been told that Liam is sick today, so I'll be covering for him as CEO.
Okay, well, since you're CEO, I haven't been able to log into Jira all morning. Do you mind submitting a support ticket to them?
Oh, there's no need for that. I disabled our Jira account last night. We won't be needing it for today.
What? Jared, you can't do that. Without Jira, engineers are useless.
Yeah, sorry. I also saw all the meetings are gone off my calendar.
That's correct. I also canceled all 5 hours of our meetings today.
But Jared, if we don't have stand-up, sprint retro, sprint planning poker, and sprint triage, how will anyone get any work done?
Somehow I think they'll manage just fine. Well, if anyone has any questions, please don't ask me. Just figure it out yourselves. I've got some work to do, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Oh no, this is horrible. Liam should have made me CEO for the day. I don't even think Jared really has his Agile Scrum Black Belt Grandmaster certificate.
Cindy, you're still on the call.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay. Basically, this channel is full of skits where the Scrum Master is, well, you know, overly focused on the process. Anyway. What were we saying? Let's get back to the music. In a previous stream, you explained why Rust needed to install an extra linker for MSVC while Zig don't, but I still kind of went over my head. It has to do with Zig shipping its own libc. So the way I understand it is that you basically, when you're writing a Rust program, it assumes that you will do dynamic linking against a libc. So the problem then is that if you want to also depend on C code, like if your Rust project has a dependency that in turn has a C dependency, then Rust will not be able to build that dependency for you, and it will have to shell out to a C compiler. So, and the C compiler will come with its own linker. So the problem is that this works fine as long as you're building for your own system, but the moment you want to build for a different system, then Rust will shell out to the system compiler of the host machine, but not the target machine. And the host compiler, the host C++ compiler of the host machine, assuming it's like a normal one, like GCC Clang, will not be able to compile for the target machine. Like, let's say that you're on Linux and you want to compile for Windows, the Clang on your Linux machine will not know how to build for Windows. So that's what Zig does. So if you're Rust, then you want to depend on either you do Docker or you depend on Zig to basically be a C++ cross-compiler, because Rust itself doesn't implement any C++ cross-compilation tool. And this goes from, having libc header files available to you, to also having platform-specific tooling. For example, on Windows, there's like some Windows-specific files that sometimes Windows projects want to refer to. I don't know all the details. I just know that they're cursed, but they're the things that allow you to embed like icons inside your executable, define other Windows-specific metadata. They have very cursed syntaxes. There used to be, I think they tend to be kind of like ini files. So think of extra cursed TOML, basically, and not standardized at all. But also stuff like, for example, if you're building a dynamic library for Windows, you also need to generate header files and a static library like stub, because Windows does dynamic linking that way. If you, for example, need to create a static archive, the static archiver tool changes from platform to platform. Like you literally need the freaking executable. And it's funny because you need the executable for the target machine, but cross-compiled for your host machine, which is a different one. So you basically need all these stuff available to you. And Rust doesn't have it because Rust doesn't concern itself with compiling C++ code. And Zig does. So Rust has to use either a container/virtual machine, or it has to use Zig. Or, technically, if there's another project out there that does what Zig does, then it could be that other project. But if you want to, have this stuff be done seriously, as far as I know, Zig is the most serious attempt at that. Jacob Lee with the Jared energy from the skit. Wait, so it's possible to configure Zig to be the C compiler for Rust instead of installing 20 gigabytes of Visual Studio on Windows? Yes. Oh, okay. First of all, I am not sure exactly on what it is that Rust depends on or not when it comes to the system's C compiler. So I'm not a Rust expert, so take this with a grain of salt. But you can use this. You get cargo Zig build, and that allows you to compile a cargo project using Zig as they say as a linker, but I feel like this is not exactly the correct terminology. I think they're using a oversimplified terminology that is probably, I'm guessing, used in the Rust project in other places. But that's the idea. So basically, that allows cargo to use Zig as the system compiler, and that's how you kick off cross-compilation of Rust projects when they have C and C++ dependencies. Rust projects that don't have those dependencies usually just do dynamic linking of the libc header files. So sorry, they just do dynamic linking of the clib. So they only need C header files for compatibility. And I think that this stuff is either, I think maybe you have to download some component of the Rust compiler. I don't remember the details, but in any case, if you have a pure Rust project, the compiler will figure it out. But the moment you want to get fancy with C++ stuff, then Rust, Rust, it's not its problem, so the compiler will not do anything for you. And that's when, they ask you to basically get the platform-specific tooling. So, not surprising at all. Let's take a look. Yeah. Now, will you be able to compile stuff correctly with cargo Zig build and no MSVC stuff installed? That I'm not sure of, because I don't know what the Rust project is doing. They might have other dependencies. They might depend on MSVC specific stuff more than what I assume they might. So, your mileage may vary. You have to test this stuff yourself. Basically, I cannot speak to it. I just don't know. But yeah, at its core, you don't need to. Hey, Octavio, hello. Hope the day is going well. I'm just starting my compiler journey. Ooh, I come from Python and I'm trying to learn a new language that compiles. Found Zig and really loving the community. Let's go. Any book recommendation for key concepts in the different way of coding? Yeah, my book, which is not published yet. I'm still working on it. I'm sorry. You know, I'm writing a Zig book specifically focused on what I assume is probably your journey. You know high-level programming, you want to get into low-level programming, and you want to basically be shown exactly what is the point, what is the new problem space, and also what is interesting about it, right? Because if you don't know anything about lower-level programming, and you listen to what is usually the discourse around low-level programming languages like Zig, C, and company, people, in my opinion, wrongly, tend to explain manual memory management as these extra boilerplate, extra bureaucracy that you have to go through to get things done. And that's a horrible way of thinking about manual memory management. The reality is that manual memory management is extra design space that you're locked out of when doing high-level programming. There's decisions about the behavior of a program that now you have control over that previously you just didn't have. And, you know, when you're writing, so you mentioned Python, so I don't know, I also used to do Python, so I'll speak for, I'll pluck an example from my Python experience. But like, if you're doing, I don't know, data wrangling using NumPy, or you're writing a JupyThon thing, or you're making a website with Django, sure, you don't care about manual memory management. There's nothing particularly interesting for you there. But the moment instead you do, let's say, you want to productivize a data processing thing. So you're not discovering things anymore, but now you want to make a service that does the data management, wrangling, like does the data processing. Now you would like it, and if you would like it for it to be super performant, then sure, now you care about memory management. You're making a website that stops being just a normal Django application, but now you're making like something super serious. Now you care more about manual memory management for performance and latency, etc. I would say even more interestingly, because these examples basically tend to make sense when you start talking about like I don't know, like the top 1% of what people do. I've personally never written a website where I had so many people visiting all at the same time that they really had to worry about performance. And I've never worked for like a big tech company that has one of these things much. So that's fine. But in the realm of like client applications, man, that stuff is important. Like for example, here I'm using this terminal emulator called Ghosty from Michel Hashimoto. It's written in Zig and it's fucking amazing. Because a terminal emulator is like a critical piece of tooling, right? You don't want your terminal emulator to crash when you run out of memory, or to be janky and slow. It sucks. Like you cut a big file, and now the thing is like they're slowly going through your big file, printing it bit by bit, and like you Control-C a bunch of times, but the thing is too busy pumping that stuff and drawing it inefficiently to the terminal, and that it can't even process your Control-C. And so it's a shitty experience, and then you crash, and then it crashes. Horrible. You don't want that. So when you're thinking about like user experience for desktop applications, the bar is much higher. And like even if you don't have like huge scalability problems, right? As a single user, as even like you're writing the application only for yourself, you have 0 other users, or you have 1 user, yourself. Even then, you want the thing to not suck. I'll give another example. Before starting my stream, I briefly watched D. Mulroy, who was working on a Twitch overlay written in Svelte. And he was like, so I've used to do web stuff. I haven't done web stuff in a while, or rather, the web stuff that I do now, it's mostly static websites. With a static site generator and nothing much more complicated than that. And if they do have any front-end JavaScript, it's mostly pure vanilla JavaScript. So he was talking about Svelte, mentioning how he prefers it over React, which I can imagine. I was using React up until around the time that Svelte came out. So, and I remember thinking that Svelte was very interesting, but then I never really, went past that. But in any case, the point is, I asked him, wait, since I'm now working on a HTML language server, I asked him, do you get any like language server stuff from Svelte? And he said yes, but it's kind of slow because the LSP, the Svelte LSP, is a wrapper around Prettier plus the TSC compiler and the Svelte compiler. I might have misunderstood some things, so don't take everything that I'm about to say with a small grain of salt. But the thing is, it's not one implementation, one cohesive solution. Is a LSP protocol executable that shells out to a bunch of sub-processes, and the result is that it's kind of slow. And slow LSPs suck, right? You get the idea, right? You don't want the thing that you write some and then you have to wait like 2 seconds before the diagnostic shows up. That's horrible. That's the Visual Studio C# shitty kind of experience. You don't want that. So, for example, here I've written an LSP for a language server for HTML. That's what I was working on the last few days. And I don't know, I can't show you how fast it is much because I don't have a huge file to test it with. And you know what? But at some point I will. At some point I will test it. But the point is, this thing, I know it's nowhere near as bad as the other stuff because I wrote the parser myself, and I designed the parser. To, for example, avoid allocating when things are not needed. So, for example, token here. Let me see if I can give you like an interesting example. Let's go into the AST. So the abstract syntax tree, every node contains a root, a doc type. It can be either a root, a doc type, an element void self-closing, comment, or text. And these are tags. So this is an enum. Keep in mind, this is a Zig enum, so enum doesn't have any payload. In Zig, an enum that has payloads is called a tagged union because unions are payloads. Enums are just enums. It's a scalar value, a fucking enum, and so you actually want to have a tagged union if you want to put values for each case. In any case, sorry, setting that aside. So every node contains an enum, and then contains span, so like a start and byte offset for the open tag, one for the close tag, and when it's set to 0, it means that there is no close tag. And then pointer to the next element, pointer to the parent, so up, pointer to the first child, down, and pointer to the next item, so the first sibling, so next in a sense. But these aren't even pointers, these are indices. These are 32-bit indices because these nodes all go inside one contiguous array. So I don't heap allocate them one at a time, but I bulk allocate them on an array list. And instead of using 64-bit pointers, we use 32-bit integers to point at the next node. So what's the point of doing this? Well, performance. This is pretty good performance. I'm not claiming that this parser is maximally performant. There's probably a long list of things that could be done to improve performance. The browsers probably do. But even as it is now, I would bet my ass that it works way better than the Svelte LSP. And so what is the point here? The point here is that this is implemented in a low-level programming language where I'm not grabbing dependencies at random. I'm designing my dependencies. Like the parser that I've designed is designed for this specific use case. It's not a parser designed to be put in a browser. It's not a parser that's designed to do other things. It's a parser designed to specifically be a fast, good enough for LSP parser. And so this is the type of attitude that gets you to good software that needs to be fast and efficient. And that's what you get from using something like Z. So, yeah. That said, sorry, you were asking for recommendations, and I think I can give you a list, a couple, and I haven't done so. So I guess my first recommendation would be go to ziglang.org and check out the maybe we can zoom out a little bit here. and check out the Learn section. The Learn section has a bunch of interesting resources. Language reference and standard library documentation are a must. And then maybe take a look at Zig.guide, Zig links, Zig on exorcism, and also learning Zig. This is open my mind, right? Yes. I heard that this is a very good resource. So I would say the Zig.guide and learning Zig are the two resources that are closest to a book as of now. You start with Zig links. Nice. That's a great starting point. Yes. Start with Zig links. Go through them until you get bored, or you run out of Zig links to do, and then start taking a look at these guys. Also, Zig on exorcism is nice. So I would say once you graduate from Zig links, if you want more Zig exercises, go on exorcism. But then learning resources, learning Zig and Zig guide. And then for the rest is, and last is interact with the community. Interacting with the community today is kind of a must if you want to learn Zig efficiently. They will point out things for you. They will answer your questions. There's a very active Zig community here where you can ask for questions for help in the Zig help channel. Meetups, interact with people. Ask questions on this stream when you join. Feel free. Also, yeah, whatever kind of question, I'm happy to answer, or at least point you in the right direction. There's also Zigit, Zigit.dev. So if you don't like this Discord, shame that it's either Discord or Discourse, man. Listen, if you need help, it's like don't be too picky. Don't be too picky. Or, you know what? I have an alternative proposal, but I'll get to that in a moment. So Zigit is also a very good community. Like, I would say Zigit is probably today the best Zig community that you can find. They have people out. They have discussions that are generally good. They have people who have good knowledge, helping other people out. And they also have this explain section, where they have well, no, it's not this one. What is it? I think I got it wrong. It's not explain. It's there's a tag that it's docs. Yeah, there we go. It's docs. Docs basically has a bunch of people writing explainers. It's like how to use Compiler Explorer with Zig. Allocation is not initialization. I think there's even better ones. Unintentional copy on capture. Yeah, in any case, there's a bunch of learning things that you can find. So I hope that I gave you like I don't know, like an idea of what is the point of doing lower level programming. Like what is interesting past just getting yourself into more boilerplate, because there is a bunch of boilerplate that relates to memory management. Sometimes it's just the nature of things. But you open yourself to a facet of software design that has always been denied to you. It's kind of like Neo opening his eyes when he first gets out of the Matrix. It hurts. At the first time you open your eyes and you have to instantiate an allocator and manually deallocate memory, etc., it will hurt. Because it's a muscle that you never used. The machines have taken that away from you. And now you claimed it back. The Zig Discord has been really helpful for me. Everyone seems cool. Yeah, I would say the Discord is also good. Like I wouldn't recommend the Discord, the Zig cord, if it wasn't good. But I do think that the Zig community, maybe also because it's smaller, like the two communities have very different sizes, and the Zig cord, at least as it is today, it seems like really good. So the Zcord has 1,600 users. Sorry, Zigit has 1,600 users. The Zcord has probably, I don't know, 10 times as that. Yeah. Andrew answers on Zigit and doesn't touch Zig Help. Yeah. But this is gonna change the day the Zigit reaches the same size as Zig Help. I mean, the guy cannot help everybody. He needs to work on the freaking language. So, yeah. Zcord has 15k. Yeah, there we go. But I was right. 10 times as much, pretty much. Let's see. Yes, for sure. I'm having a problem with the NVim plugin that I tried to use. Python. From Python? The ZD store has very specific channels like OS Dev. Yep. Nice. Okay. Oh, you were building one. So you were building a NeoVim plugin. Wait, where does Python factor into that? Were you trying to build a NeoVim plugin in Python? Oh no, Octavio, no. Well, you know what? Then I guess you. Well, I don't know what your specific problems were, but yeah. You know what's funny is that I don't know the specifics of writing any of NeoVim plugins in general or in Python specifically, but my guess is that NeoVim doesn't have a Python interpreter built in. And so to implement something in Python, you basically need another plugin that basically spins up a Python interpreter inside of NeoVim, and that then loads your Python script. So you're basically scripting another plugin in a sense. And what's funny, so by the way, I would be interested in knowing if that's what happened, or if you were trying to spin up CPython yourself or what. But the problem is that you realize then at that point that there's so much jankiness going on, like there's so much extra work and extra stuff that you have to do because your Python program is not very general purpose. Your Python program only works inside of a Python ecosystem, like a context. And so you have to pull in and spin up an entire Python execution context before you can execute Python. And that sucks. That really sucks. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that while high-level programming makes certain things easier, once you go past trivial stuff, with all due respect to Python, but once you get past trivial stuff, then now things are much more complicated because now you have to interact, you have to basically pull in all this extra machinery. Like ironically, the moment you want to write a NeoVim plugin, it's probably 10 times more straightforward to just do that in Zig than it is to do that in Python. Because even though simple Python is easier than simple Zig, not exactly trivial Zig is way easier than not exactly trivial Python, like in the case of a NeoVim plugin. It's this situation. It's this situation, right? It's like Microsoft Word versus LaTeX. So Python, very easy for very simple stuff, but then you get to a point where the beams cross, and now, oh man, now you keep forcing Python past a certain level of complexity. Now you're fucked because hardship goes exponentially up. I ended up using Luap, like I suppose is what everyone does. Oh no. I see. Yeah, it's this situation. Anyway. Because yeah, it's true. Like if you think about it, how hard would it be to make a performant LSP implemented in Python? It would probably be harder than do that also in Zig. For real. You know, whenever you see these blog posts where people say, oh yeah, we use high-level programming language and here's how we optimized for the garbage collector and now we reduce, you know, pressure on the garbage collector 10 times, and like they have this super complicated 4D chess that they're playing against the runtime, against Java, the JVM, or against the Go runtime or whatever. And it's like, man, like, sure, but it doesn't even have to be this complicated. It's like you have these gurus, and again, with all due respect, they probably know interesting stuff. They're competent people, and what they do is valuable to a lot of other people. But man, these are like clever solutions to problems you shouldn't have in the first place. Okay. Yes, as the TOEFL has been, you know, lightly hinting at for a couple of messages now. Yes, let's go back to Super. So let me tell you what I'm going to do today. So here's the current situation. I have a templating language called Super, which I think I'm gonna upgrade to. I'm gonna call everything SuperHTML at this point. I think I like SuperHTML, so everything is gonna be SuperHTML. Here's how we use 10,000 lines boost library to work around C++ complexity. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. So I have a templating language, or rather, I have a static site generator that I'm working on, and I'm writing every piece myself. Well, not everything, but like most of it. So it has a templating language that I designed because I don't want to use curly brace templating languages. I don't like the Ginger templating language. I don't like clever solutions to problems you shouldn't have in the first place is a damn good quote. Thank you. I haven't read it anywhere else. That was how I basically, you know, that was the final form of my complaints about the C ecosystem. Sorry, the Microsoft ecosystem, not C. The Microsoft ecosystem. Back when I was doing C# and Visual Studio and company, and like they are full of clever solutions to problems you shouldn't have in the first place. So that's how it became a thing for me. But now I'm starting to use it also for other situations. But it's true. We plenty of times we get to situations where we end up coming up with clever solutions instead of solving the problem at its core. Like we treat the symptoms, not the problem. In any case, so I have my templating language, which looks like this. It's like normal HTML, but some attributes have special meaning. And then there's a tiny templating, and there's a tiny scripting language that you put inside the string, which is a separate language. I'm not going to work on that one today. It's called Scripty, and I don't know, it's fine as it is for now. But the templating language basically evaluates scripty expressions, and then based on their value, decides what to do with looping, for example. So here, the templating language evaluates this expression, expects it to return either true or false. And if it's true, then the body gets rendered. If it's false, then the body does not get rendered. Loop, same thing. Well, similar thing. It evaluates an expression, expects it to be an array, or let's say a list. Expects it to be a list, and if it is a list, for every value in the list, it copies the body, evaluating it against the specific value of every element of that list, etc. So basically, I have this working already. This site that you're seeing, it's implemented. It's written in my static site generator, although it's still super alpha, work in progress. And case in point, my implementation of the templating language was kind of POC quality because I was depending on Treesitter as my HTML parser. And the problem with Treesitter is that it really sucks at giving you diagnostics. It's horrible, or rather, it's a tool not meant for that job. So, what is an HTML language server? It's this. Let me see if I have another example open. Just this one? I thought I had more code in here. Well, it's this kind of thing. So like you do div, but then you don't close it, and it tells you that you never close it. You then close it, and all is good. Then you try to close form, and it complains. you're trying to close form, but form was never opened. So what's the deal here? And I'm like, oh yes, you're right. I have to open form. Or this is what something that happens a lot more. You do H1, and then you do H1 again, and you forget to close H1. And I think we crashed the. Oh no, we crashed it. So guess what? Found a bug. Index out of bounds. Oh, interesting. In any case. So it's still work in progress, as you can see. But look, it tells you. It tells you that your H1s were never closed. Yeah. If you think about it, it's weird. If you write wrong HTML in VS Code today, it will not error out. Like you open VS Code, you write bad HTML, and it tells you nothing. But check out my VS Code. My VS Code will error out. Why? Because I have the SuperHTML extension installed. So go download SuperHTML. You also need to get the CLI executable. Sorry, the extension is not enough. It also does this. It also does. Oh, where is it? Here. It also does auto formatting. So let's restore functionality. If you remove white space. Oh no, the autocomplete is messing me up. So if you remove white space from the start tag to the beginning of the contents and save it, the LSP assumes that you want the auto formatter component of the LSP assumes that you want to put everything on a single line, so it collects everything up. Put a space instead, and it assumes that you want vertical alignment. It also works with attributes. You know when sometimes you put a ton of attributes and then they start becoming too much and you want to align them vertically? Put a space between the last attribute and the diamond bracket, save, and they go vertical. Change your mind. You decided to finally create a class for all the freaking styling that you hard-coded in a single element, because I know that you guys do this shit. I do it too. So you remove that space, save, and now whoop, goes back vertical. Well, ideally you probably would want also to remove, the attributes that you don't need anymore. So that's what my thing does. But this thing exists because I needed to make my own HTML parser for my templating language, and that's what we're going to do today. So here's the situation. I have the templating language called SuperHTML, and right now, to basically get to a SuperHTML 3, right now we have to do 3-seater. It builds an AST, and then that goes through a I don't know, let's call it like let's call it syntax, let's call it sugar. Basically there's a sugared interface that wraps all the 3-seater types and gives you better semantic stuff. Like for example, the 3-seater AST has nodes that can have different type of content, but then the sugar interface is able to say, yeah, this node is now an element. And so once a node is an element, then you can call like .start tag, .name, .attributes on it. And then this basically gets consumed by the super AST, the super templating language parser to produce a super AST. But now I wrote my own HTML parser. I'm sorry, I'm so bad at this. In any case, I have my own HTML parser that basically does this. Obsoletes these two things. Kinda. Because actually there's some logic in here that I haven't implemented yet because my HTML parser hasn't yet been wired here, so I don't know precisely what extra stuff this guy needs that we should put there. Or rather, I started to look into this stuff a little bit. So long story short, what we need to do is delete everything that has to do with 3-seater from the code base, wire my HTML parser into this thing, and then there will be some functionality that the sugar interface before was providing that now we need to basically make native. And keep in mind, this was annoying because this had to be separate because I couldn't change how 3-seater works. So 3-seater would return me its types, and then I would wrap stuff on top. And that wouldn't always be optimal because of, well, the fact that I was using a third-party library and I couldn't decide and design everything. But now I can. And so now we have an opportunity of fixing all of this stuff. So the sugar interface that I mentioned here, this thing, is called sitter. And basically wraps 3-sitter types. It depends on 3-sitter, wraps 3-sitter types, 3-sitter tree, and everything else, and it adds functionality on top. So for example, let me find a good example. Like once you agree that something is an element, the element has a tag, and the tag allows you to grab the name and the attributes. And for example, let me see, because this is tag. Where's element though? I think I do have element, right? Yeah. So for example, look, the way 3-sitter works, it doesn't immediately give you an easy way to grab the end tag. You have to basically find the last child element and check if it is an end tag or not. And if it's not an end tag, then you return null. And look at this. Look at this disgusting string comparison thing that I'm doing. Now, you don't have to do this. I think that there's another API that you can use from 3-sitter to make these comparisons much more efficient. But still, it's janky and sucks. So now, basically, a bunch of this functionality. Here's another piece of functionality that might be interesting. Like an attribute here has a function to escape it. A function to unescape it and unquote it. And so here's another awful example where basically I need to detect if the original attribute value was quoted or not. And if it was, then I know to, strip quotes from its extremes. Otherwise, it means that the attribute value was unquoted. I'm talking about this stuff, basically. Like you can have, okay, let's fix this error. Then you can have foo equals bar, and bar and something else equals in quotes, right? So this is valid syntax. Oh man, why am I having this weird bug? Attribute duplicate attribute name. No, this is also wrong. Oh no. Yeah, this is totally wrong. I need to fix this. In any case, yeah, now I can check for this stuff much more easily. So basically I have to kick also this thing out, but at the same time I will need to re-implement some of its logic. So that's the idea. Thinking of a fun project in Zig where I need to crawl a lot of different web pages. I guess currently the best way to go forward with this would be using libcurl. Yeah. I mean, actually, no. There's an HTTP client in the Zig standard library. You know what? I'll take it back. Maybe libcurl could still be better. The problem is this. There's the HTTP client in the Zig standard library only supports TLS 1.3. It does not support TLS 1.2. TLS 1.2 is old, but some servers are still stuck on TLS 1.2, and they will refuse to give you plain HTTP. So basically your connection will fail if you connect to HTTPS to those websites. So from that perspective, libcurl might be better, or you will have to use something else. I would also say that, if you're just crawling websites, honestly, Python and Beautiful Soup might be good enough for you. But, it depends on the scale. Binance is stuck on TLS 1.2. Yeah. Please make a feature to loop over a JSON file in Zin. It would be great. Yeah, I need to implement this kind of stuff. Like the ability for you to reference data assets and navigate and manipulate them. Yeah. Well, not JSON in Zin, only Ziggy. For the official stuff, yes. But you will have, it makes sense for you to have JSON, YAML, TOML, whatever, CSV, data, and want to be able to manipulate it. So I would totally want to support CSV, for example. I think it makes total sense. Okay. So let's go do that. So let's define our goal well. So our goal is right now to have, let's look at our root file. I think we want in our root file to have ast.zig test and compile. And it currently doesn't compile because I was already in the process of kicking out all the dependency on sitter, which is the syntax sugarguard interface to 3sitter. And so we don't compile, and we need to fix this. I think should be fine on Windows. I think that unfortunately, since it's one of the least used platforms by the Zig community today, you might occasionally stumble upon, a piece of functionality or a bug that hasn't been like properly fully polished yet. But it's a tier 1 target, so as more people use it, it will get better. And still, it shouldn't be bad. As of today, it should not be bad. Like, I would say that I would not recommend to anybody to use Zig in MinGW or WSL on Windows. Just use Zig on Windows, unless you want to do Linux specific development on a Windows machine. Like you want to implement, for example, I don't know, the Linux version of the application that uses Linux specific APIs when compiled for Linux, then fine, use WSL to run it and test it. But actually, you know what? Yes, I would say use it to run it and test it, not even to develop. So like you basically build the executable and launch it from WSL. But everything else, Zig, the compiler itself, doesn't have to be on Linux. Just use the native shit. The native version. It works. Okay, so we have this working. Zig build fails as well with the same error. That's good. So that means, by the way, I'm actually tempted though to chase these bugs first. This is bad. Why are you giving me duplicate attribute name, man? There's no foo anywhere. What makes you think that? Yeah, it really hates foo. I think we are seeing... I feel like we're seeing something. I feel like we're onto something. I've been using x64dbg, and Zig really has good. I don't know. It's x64dbg, the Windows debugger that you get from the Windows Store. You also should be getting PDB stuff from Zig, right? So it's another version. Okay, something different then. Okay, wait. Oh, you know also what's going on. Wait. So first of all, this is basically some of these duplicate attribute name errors are legitimate because they're actually, these two guides are legitimate. Yeah, but like this is not it, man. Okay, this is really not it. Do we keep it if we delete everything else? Okay, so we have a pretty good repro now. Okay. Pretty good repro. Attribute name foo. Is there any other attribute name foo before that one? Attribute name foo. Okay, yeah, we have a problem. We have a problem where we are tokenizing foo more than once. We're returning foo twice. That's the problem, I think. Yeah. Actually, at least twice. Yeah, no, it's only twice because otherwise there would be more duplicate errors. Attribute value unquoted. And then we return this. And then we're still in attribute value unquoted state. And we stay there a bunch. Oh no, wait, we stay there way too much. And then we return foo again. Okay, this is 100% me missing a state change or something in the tokenizer. Before attribute value. Okay, let's start from attribute name and then go from there. So attribute name. You should complain about bar being unquoted. Nope, that's good HTML. You can do that in HTML. It's fine. Today, the TOEFL learned something, one new curse thing about HTML. Can totally be unquoted as long as it doesn't have spaces in it. So we found a name, and so now, and then we find a space, or in our case, we didn't find a space, right? We found an equal sign. The idea is we find a name, we find an equal sign. The equal sign determines the end of the name, which moves us into the before attribute value state. So we're in before attribute value. Tag stays the same. We write down where the equal sign is, and then we write down the name. And it seems that we're doing this correctly. Okay, now let's go to before attribute value. Before attribute value, we skip spaces. We look for the quote to go into attribute value. I think we're doing it wrong. Oh no, we might not be doing it wrong. So attribute value probably is both single quoted and double quoted. Yeah, and it writes down where the quote is. Oh no, and this actually should be -1, I think. We don't do any -1, right? This should be -1. And then, but our case is not this one. Our case is we are in the attribute value unquoted state. So here we're not reconsuming, right? Here we're just switching. So this should be -1, yes. Here we are pulling, like rewinding our stream by 1 character, so we don't need to do -1 here. So this value start is correct. Okay, now we want to go into attribute value unquoted. So attribute value unquoted. We keep reading. Okay, anything else? Keep appending, blah, blah, blah. At some point, we find a space, I believe. Oh my god. Yeah, look at this. I'm so fucking stupid. Okay, I've made this mistake in a bunch of other places. So basically, at some point, I started adding these if something return. And I forgot that I need to put the state change before this thing. Otherwise, it's a problem. Otherwise, we return and we never perform this freaking state change, of course. Yeah, I think we fixed our bug. Fuck, we don't build because of that, because we were in that test. So, okay, let's temporarily wear this out. Zig build. And let's restart, and now it's not insane anymore. Correct. Now it behaves correctly. Good. Okay. Oh shit. Oh, that's actually correct. Hey, Neurosite. Oh fuck. Wait, no. I know what's going on. Oh no, am I dumb? I think I'm dumb. I broke it. Okay, I think I get it. So okay, the two minus ones that I've added, trying to be helpful, were actually not helpful, because apparently we were, like, it was on purpose. That's interesting. I did not expect that. I did not expect that. I guess we were already assuming that we were going to be one past the quote. Fine. Okay, we're not fucking this up anymore. Are we? We're not. Okay. So that minus one change that I did seemed to be helpful. It was not. Okay. By the way, Neurosite, I think here. So I shared with you this link. So here's what I've assume is happening with Flow. In our case, I suspect that you are assuming that we support delta updates for change document, while instead my LSP doesn't support delta changes. It only supports full document changes. So I suspect that's what's happening, because basically we are receiving a request where you give us a partial delta document sync, I believe, and that's the wrong union case. And the union cases are coded to be just the full document case, because that's the only thing we gave. We say that we are capable of doing. So that's why it's not expecting the client to ever give anything other than full document. Yeah, I would say, here's how I understand this thing. It would probably be a good idea for my LSP to support deltas. Yeah, that's a bit of a thing. I think that some features you can assume. Well, first of all, an LSP could even tell you that it just does not support certain things at all. Although, I guess you cannot say that you don't support content changes. That makes no sense. But the point is, yeah, some things could be supported or not. I would also say this. At first glance, delta updates seem a good idea, but once you consider that requires a bunch of diffing on both sides. I don't know, maybe on your end is not that bad to provide that kind of diffing. I guess if you basically also, by the way, sending document changes. Actually, you know what? Never mind that. My point is, maybe on your case it's not that difficult because you only do that for single characters. But on the server end, it's, I don't know. I think it requires some extra math. Maybe not that much, but well, sorry. I guess my point is this. I think that diffing makes total sense for huge documents. I'm not sure if diffing is worth it for tiny documents. And so ultimately, I think that supporting both modes of sending updates is not just a compatibility thing, but it might even be just a reasonable thing to do more in general, but I'm not sure. Dr. Love Wizard. thank you for the tier 1 subscription. Thank you very much. I hope that you're enjoying the stream. And if you have questions about Zig, the programming language, the roadmap, the project in general, future plans, past plans, secret things that we only say, you know, behind closed doors when we have our meetings and we sacrifice animals to, I don't know, the god of programming, I'm happy to answer. We don't have many of those, to be honest, but minus 18% compiling hello world with 2 threads. Ooh, that's nice. I'm guessing, yeah, because it's the standard library, right? So you still have a bunch of stuff. You said too much. Oh shit, you know what? You're right. I was not supposed to talk about those meetings. I wasn't paying attention when they were talking about the rules. Just starting Zig, background in C and Go. Let's go, man. It's pretty straightforward so far. Let's go. Yeah, I think you're in a pretty good position. Like if you have experience with C and Go, oh man, I think you're gonna enjoy this so much. Not everything is gonna be necessarily, you know, perfect and precisely to your liking, but you have, I think, the right background to really, you're set up well to enjoy what Zig has to give you, because you know C, and if you know C, then you look at Zig and you see, pun not intended, all the things, all the bad things that C had forced you to do that now you don't have to do anymore from in Zig. And then if you have experience with Go, you also have experience with like, you know, a programming language that tries to focus on simplicity. Although the way Zig's take on simplicity is very different from Go's. So I personally feel like the way I like to describe it is that I feel like both the Zig project and the Go project have faced the same questions, but then they came up with different answers. But for example, Go has a formatter, has Go FMT, Zig has Zig FMT, and they're both great ideas in my opinion. And also with the Zig auto formatter, you can negotiate. So if you're not familiar, you can do this. In Zig, you can add trailing commas to, you know, field lists and also argument lists in functions. So you take out the trailing comma and you get single line alignment. You add a trailing comma and you get vertical alignment. And that works for a bunch of different things. As I said, fields, function arguments when calling a function, parameter definition when defining a function, and it's just beautiful. And that's also the kind of thing that I'm bringing to my HTML LSP, right? I'm implementing the same thing just for HTML. So that's why Zig has so many mascots. Yeah. The differential updates are important for really large documents. Oh yeah. Try transferring sema.zig. Yeah. Agreed. Not awesome. Yeah, I'm sorry. So I don't have that stuff implemented. I should probably implement it. I think the problem is that when I first bundled the Zig language server kit stuff, I didn't bundle any diffing implementation, and I think that actually, I guess for when getting diff has some relevance in this context, but I guess not for receiving. I could totally receive diff updates from you, and it doesn't require me to do any diffing on my end, to be fair, because I believe you tell me already where the character needs to be, I don't know, added or changed or whatever. But in any case, Mighty Core 1, hello. As an experienced Go programmer, I really like Zig, but I was wondering, what's the current plan of async or other related patterns? I miss the simplicity of Go routines. Yes, I can give you a good answer. So, I would not call Go routines simple. I would argue that it's the wrong term for it. I would call Go routines easy, but they are kind of complex inside. There's a runtime that does a lot of heavy lifting for you in Go. So I would say that it's good concurrency pattern. Also, I like it. I would say if I had to do any criticism of Go's concurrency model, well, the main one, you still have mutexes, so you can do that stuff, but like the main one, channels and Go routines, I would say the only complaint would be that it's a little bit bare bones. Like if you compare what Go offers you versus what you get from Elixir and company, you know, the OTP languages, they have so much fancy shit. I feel like maybe some of it could have been nice also in Go. It is not trivial, right? When you spin a bunch of Go routines, sometimes it's not trivial to make sure that you get like a clean exit. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you just need a wait group and whatever. The problem solves itself trivially. Some other times it's a little bit more complicated. But that said, I agree. It's pretty good. Zig doesn't have a runtime and cannot have a runtime as a low-level programming language. So it needs to be something different. Or rather, sure, you can totally have something like channels in Zig, but it would have to be like a userland solution. It wouldn't be a something explicitly embedded in the language. There's a second point talking about why Go routines are not exactly super simple. So Go routines they're like green threads, so they have their own stack. Every Go routine has its own stack, and the Go runtime is able, when you allocate these stacks in memory, like this is your memory, and like you put here, I don't know, here you have one stack. This is your, I don't know, main Go routine stack. Like I'll call it one, and then this stack is gonna grow and shrink, right, over time as you call more functions and return from them. So if you want to put a second stack for another Go routine, you can't put it immediately after. You kind of have to leave some space. So here you put 2, and so the one has more room to grow and shrink, and 2 also wants to grow and shrink in turn. And then you need to have 3, and then you need to have a ton of Go routines, right? So sometimes you basically discover that 3 was allocated too close to 2. 2 is like, it wants to grow more, but now there's 3, and so 3 has to be moved. And the Go runtime is capable of moving stacks. And that is not an easy task because, well, some of it is like you just copy the bytes to a new location, fuck it, that's it. But some of it is more complicated because now you need to adjust pointers. Because if you have something that points to something else in this piece of memory, which could be in this stack, but maybe you have other, well, probably no, you don't have, you probably won't have other stacks point at this stack, but whatever, you might, whatever. Though the basic case is you have this stack pointing at stuff inside of itself. Now you need to adjust all those pointers. In the Go runtime, since in Go you don't normally forge pointers, and it has a garbage collector, etc., then it knows how to fix those pointers. So that's another piece of weird stuff that the Go ecosystem does for you that wouldn't really be a good fit for Zig. So what does Zig have? Zig has right now nothing, but it used to have async await. So let me tell you first a little bit about async await. I'll share a blog post and then I'll tell you what the current state of things is. So Zig has async await. I wrote a blog post about it a while ago that you can read. But the problem is that async await right now it's not implemented in the self-hosted compiler. So we used to have it in the original Bootstrap compiler, but then we lost it in the self-hosted compiler, and it hasn't been implemented back because it has some, like the original implementation was kind of POC in the POC compiler, the Bootstrap compiler. But now the current compiler written in Zig is like not as POC quality anymore. It's more serious. So a bunch of, like, every feature has like now a higher threshold of quality of implementation. And async await, as it was designed originally, has a couple of issues with the Zig memory model. So the Zig memory model is not fully spec'd out yet. It's still, being designed as the rest of the language. But there are some annoyances with it, like some features, some related features that basically, currently, there's 2 features that are nice to have, one of which is necessary to have async await. But these 2 features right now cause annoying foot guns in the language. Not very common ones, fairly niche, but still existing. So the point is, the foot gun situation of these features needs to be sorted out. And depending on the outcome, async await will either be implemented as is, redesigned to work without that necessary feature, assuming that one won't be there anymore, or conclude that async await is not a good fit with the language anymore. So this is the blog post. Check it out. And I think that Zig has a very interesting, has a very unique position when it comes to async await. Long story short, Zig through Comptime is able to give you an async await that isn't as viral as other async awaits. The async await needs to be viral in terms of the runtime semantics, because it's stackless coroutines. So everything has to become a stackless coroutine in the runtime. What happens with the generated machine code plus stuff that goes into memory in practice? But from the perspective of source code, you know how in Python you have the async version of the language and the sorry, not the language, the async version of a library and the blocking version of a library. In Zig, you don't need to do that. In Zig, you can have one implementation of a library that works both in async contexts and in blocking contexts. And it's just one code base with minor, very minor branching. So you need to have in your library has to account for the possibility that it's running in blocking mode versus async mode. So it's not like auto magic. But you can have like surgical inserts of branching logic in there where you do slightly different things depending if you're in async mode or not. As an example, if you're not in async mode, you want to have maybe mutexes for locking, while if you're in async mode, you want to lock through the event loop. But then these are tiny things, and now you have one code base that works in both ways, and so you don't have async this, async that, and also, by the way, Zig uses the async and await keywords backwards. They're not used in the same way as they're used in other languages. You don't put async in front of a function definition. You use async in front of a function call, etc., etc. So read the blog post; it will tell you about this stuff. So hey, Johnny Marler, hello, Mlug, hello. Okay, so that's the state of things. So we fixed our bug. Man, that stupid thing that I did. So we kind of want to release this though. That's an annoying bug. Should we do a release? You know what? Let's do a release and then we keep working on our stuff. Building, by the way, one command releasing for all the supported architectures: Intel, ARM, Linux, Windows, Mac, in parallel. Deleting the Windows StarGZs. Because we want to make Windows versions, zip versions of those. Actually, separate zips. Also, you know what? We want to commit. We want to commit changes to we want to commit root and HTML, I think. Hey, Bill. In parallel, how much RAM does that use? Good question. I think it will use a good chunk of my memory, but the Zig build system has a concept of how much memory a thing is supposed to take, and it will not overschedule based on that. It's a heuristic, so it's probably not perfect. Probably you push it too far and you will still have stuff crash, but how can I say? It in practice it kind of solves the problem of having to limit the number of parallel link jobs. Like when you're building a LVM, otherwise you get a crash. For multiple means, I just do them serially myself, regardless of the language, because all of YAML is bad. I can, you know what? I can show a HTOP. Give me a sec, and then I'll show an HTOP. So let me refresh this thing, in case it has weird ideas about what's the current comment. Did I push? I did push, right? Yeah. Create new tag and publish. Fix. Not field. And then okay, that's pretty much what we did here. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. All right, there we go. Done. So, okay, let's take a look at what it takes to build this stuff currently. HTOP. You know what? We can delete the entire zip cache folder and watch it build a bunch of stuff from the start. Yeah. Okay, zip cache. Goodbye. Okay, release builds. So yeah, we have a bunch of memory pressure, 12 gigs. I mean, I have 32 gigs, so I guess I'm rich enough. I'm memory rich enough to not have a problem with this stuff. That's like big memory privilege or something. But yeah, I'm also building freaking 3-seater here. Yeah, big memory energy. Yeah. So this is definitely a situation where if somebody had a tiny 8 gig M1 computer, then they would not be able to do all this parallelism. Yeah, but the linking doesn't seem all that bad, right? Like, okay, we had a big spike when we were building all the C files one at a time, like one file, one compilation unit. But yeah. You could add the version to the tar file names. It would help keeping track locally as a user. You're right, it could. Maybe I should. It would. Yeah, you know what? Also, Johnny, while you're here, by the way, since you're switching to Odin, since you're in the market for interesting things to do on the stream, and you've been doing such a good job. By the way, for the people watching, Johnny has been doing really entertaining streams, and all right, this sends me here, of course. Oh, also, can you explain how to start making something complicated like game engine in C++? Let's say for beginners, it feels impossible to think on that level right now. Thank you, Rudra. If like C++, like if your problem is complexity, C++, let me tell you, is not the answer. C++ will do nothing for you if you feel that something is already too complicated. Here's my recommendation. It's a serious one. You shouldn't worry about making a complicated game engine. Like, why do you want to make a complicated game engine? If you want to make a complicated game engine, I guess chances are that you want to make a game. So if you want to make a game, the point is that to make a game, you need to have an ability to do storytelling, in a sense, to a level of complexity that you can manage. If I would say that this is a bit of a stretch. What I'm about to say might not be technically, mechanically true 100%. But roughly speaking, if you can't make a 3D engine, chances are you can't come up with a game, with a compelling game for 3D space. So if you want to get into games for real, start by making an interesting 2D game using pixel art that maybe you design yourself, and like level up from there. You will find that a lot of problems that exist in 3D games also exist in 2D games. But crucially, a lot of problems that exist in 3D games do not exist in 2D games. So you can start tackling the problems that exist in 2D games, and you can start by using a framework and then work your way up. Maybe at some point you leave the framework behind and you do a 2D game from scratch yourself, and then after that you get into 3D stuff. So don't try, like, a 3D game engine is super complicated. If you start from zero, it's like the jump is too high. You want something that gives you wins along the way. Like, if you set out to write a complicated 3D game engine, before you get any kind of win, it will be a long time, and you will 100% lose steam as you do that. So start with a 2D game, maybe even consider a fantasy console like the Wasm 4. Why did it send me to Wasmer? No, dude, why are you sending me to Wasmer? Okay, this is disappointing. I wrote Wasm 4. Oh, and it's still sending me to Wasmer. No, I want to search. So, consider even starting with Wasm 4. Okay, let's pop from the stack a little bit. What were we doing? Oh yeah, so I was saying that if you go to youtube.com, look at this. Look at this guy, man. Okay, so Johnny, by the way, Johnny, your thumbnail game on point. I appreciate that. So Johnny has been basically rescuing C and C++ projects from CMake by basically porting their C build systems to Zig build. And you know, he worked on the build system for VVV on Windows, and then he asked me the other day to try out on macOS, and it worked first try, which is nice. And also the thing is that the build works without depending on system stuff. Like in here, he was basically, so I think that the stream was like first, I don't know, he was basically writing down all the steps that you need to build VVVVV with Linux or without Linux using, sorry, with Zig or without Zig using, you know, standard tooling. So that would be basically Zig plus a build.zig file versus using CMake, MSVC, and all that garbage. And it's pretty interesting. So go check him out. But as I was saying, Johnny, since you're in the market for interesting projects, here's an interesting, maybe a potentially interesting idea. You could make a library, since you've been messing around with like tarring and zipping and stuff. Maybe you consider making like a Zig library for making releases, where basically it's a function that you call from a build system, and you pass in a compile step, and then what it does, it's basically cycle different targets, and or maybe a function that returns a compile step given target. Like, I don't know what the exact design should be, but you do this, and then you also zip for Windows and target for other platforms. Because right now I'm doing that externally, and it's fucking annoying. Period. That's at the end of my TED talk. I don't know. I have to run this second command, which annoys me. I wish I didn't have to do this. Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, I could shell out though. You know what? The worst case, you could have it shell out and do this. Yeah, you could have it shell out. Yeah, make release. You know what? Now that I think about it, once we factor in shelling out, maybe that's something that I could tackle myself. The problem is, when the moment we started talking about tarring and gzipping and stuff, I started thinking, oh god, this requires like compression implementations of these things, and I was like, oh god, I'm not doing that myself. So nice. By the way, I have also one complaint about ZigUp. ZigUp on my system has the problem that it thinks it. Okay, so this is okay. Let me try it with 0.12. Oh fuck, it works now. Okay, at some point, I don't know why, but it had the problem. Oh, you know why? I think okay, I understand what you're doing. You're doing which zig. Oh, I think I get it now. Okay, sorry. My complaint was that basically it was not detecting correctly what zig we were using, because here's what happened. I had the zig source checkout in my path. So I had the zig compiler zig out folder in my path, and it was trying to replace the zig executable in there with a symbolic link, because I'm guessing it was doing this. It was doing which zig, and which zig was replying with actually build. Right, that would be zig. I don't remember what's this thing called. Right, stage 3. Yeah, it was replying with this, and then the thing was trying to. Was it giving you an error message? Yeah, but it was consuming. It was kind of saying it was giving me like a file access error that made me think like it kind of implied that you didn't have permission to do so. But I think you were getting an error simply because like by doing the point is you are doing which zig, and for most people that will mean a symbolic link. But in my case, it wasn't a symbolic link. It was the actual zig executable. And so the process was barking out because it assumed that there was a symbolic link that it could override somehow. So I don't know what the solution is at that point, but the error was weird. In any case, sorry. End of my rant. You mean something like Gox from Mitchell? I don't know. Thank you, Rhoda. What is your chat client aggregating chat? Wait, is your chat client aggregating chat from all streaming platforms, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube? So, Peterino, if you're still here, it could, it actually can. Well, not all platforms, but it actually, Bork implements also YouTube chat. The problem is, I'm not turning it on because it's against the terms of service. The terms of service of both YouTube and Twitch forbids you from merging the streams. They don't want you to merge chats. And that's annoying as fuck. So also let's get rid of Twitter. Always disappointing, Twitter. Reliably disappointing. If you didn't know. You know what? That's my assumption. I might be wrong. I think right now. You know what? Okay, I'll try to show you. Oh. Fuck. Now it's working correctly. Okay, I don't know, man. Good job, I guess. I swear I had it. It was a problem at some point. But now I cannot reproduce anymore. It was on my laptop though. It wasn't on this machine. So I don't know. Sorry for the fake report. I guess. Okay, we're doing this. We're doing that. I made my release. Now I am going to turn back on ASC.zig. Back to getting zig build errors. Yeah, it's skill issue. Oh, beautiful error. Okay, so we're back to erroring out. The error is in ASC.zig. ZLS can give us diagnostics. That's nice. Use an unclear identifier sitter. Yes, so the problem is we have removed, as I was saying earlier, we have removed sitter. And now we need to adapt it. So HTML3 has to be html.ast, but init once, what were we giving earlier? Oh, look, we were not even giving it an allocator because it was a C library. So now we need to give it an allocator. So in our case, we want the arena, I guess. Let me think about it for a moment. Why do we think that this is an arena? Why do we think that we're building in an arena? We should not be thinking that we're building in an arena, to be honest. But you know what? For now, let's leave it as that. I actually made HTML. What? What do you mean you actually made HTML? One of the creators. Of which version of the spec? Are you like okay. Well, if you want to check it out and try it out, it's here. There you go. Oh. So, okay, we build a tree. I don't know if I want to call it tree anymore, but whatever. Grab the root. I think we were grabbing the root because we needed the root to... Let me double check what we're doing here. We want to grab a reference to the root. By the way, this is a function that doesn't exist in our new tree implementation. Hello, over to my Twitch account. Hi, Johnny, and great stream loaders. Holy shit! Wait, I hope you wait. Is this the amount of delay that is there for you? I hope not. Well, yeah, hope on Twitch though. Also, you know what? Would be nice to be able to become a Twitch partner at some point. I am getting closer to the requirements, but I'm not quite there yet, which is annoying. I would need to have 75 viewers on average, always live. Oh, you need 75 average, which means that you need more than 75. Oh, you mean you're saying that in any case they want more than just the exact number there? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we're building an AST. The AST has template name, a template path, keeps track of the source, which is fine. I kind of want to rename this field from HTML to source, I think. And then we create a node. Right, we create a node for our AST. And we call it root. And that makes sense. And then we set our root to having an element that points at our HTML root. That makes sense. So we don't do this anymore. Instead we do 3 dot nodes 0. Also, we need to quickly error out if the HTML has errors in it. Let's create some accounts. What do you get? You should be able to see it right now. I see that we have 46 viewers right now. That's 40, 50. That's roughly what I get most of the time. YouTube it's just not for interactive communities. Yeah, also their API for like fetching comments from live streams is really weird. What is this tool? This tool is a templating language. So if you're interested in a templating language, well, this link is to a static site generator, but this static site generator uses my templating language. Instead of having curly braces like Jinja and company, it basically doesn't break HTML. It still validates HTML, but the attributes, certain attributes, have semantic meaning for the templating language and decide whether, for example, to toggle on and off the body of an element or to repeat like the element multiple times, for example, when looping. Let me switch to Twitch then. Should I watch on Twitch instead then? I have YouTube Premium, so it's just easier. I would say everybody watch wherever it's most comfortable for you. Absolutely. Do whatever works best for you. Don't worry about it. I was joking. I was joking because I know Peterino and like he probably doesn't care. And he just wants to chat with people. So so that's fine. But like generally speaking, I would say don't worry. Do whatever works best for you. That said, I will socket. If you're Vulkan, then well, thank you for switching over. Okay. So then what were we doing? Oh yeah, right. We got a cursor. So now we have to decide where do we check for errors? I would say that we accept to build our AST if the original AST has errors in it. That is debatable. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. When there's gonna be another talk on Zig Showtime? Yeah, that's a good point. Like when's gonna be the next Zig Showtime episode? I would say at this point probably I'm gonna return in September. Because of the conference and everything else, I've been also because there were some people who were queued up to do Zig Showtime, and then we kind of agreed to do it at around a certain time, and then when I pinged them back, they were kind of busy, so kind of the plans fell through. So I guess I could have tried harder to reschedule, but then I was getting busy with other stuff. So setting that aside though, I think that I totally need to resume Zig Showtime, and I think September is going to be it. I think right now, July, August, they're slow months. As a European, I'm legally required to do nothing for 2 months. So we'll wait. But September, I should come back. Also what I was thinking, I was thinking that I was actually thinking about this earlier today. We should return to running Zig Showtime, and we should probably hear from like status updates from big projects. Like we had a episode on MicroZig in the past and one on Mac Engine, but I think that we haven't heard from them on Zig Showtime in a long time, and man, they've been doing a lot of things. We heard some from like Software You Can Love conferences, but I also think that like the Zig Showtime format allows them to, you know, not focus on big ideas and instead just give an interesting status update on you know, something they're working on, where the point is not to give like this grandiose talk where they conclude with this earth-shattering, mind-blowing idea of how you should or should not do software development, and instead just, yeah, this, you know, this stuff is now better. This other stuff we're still working on. This stuff we started working on, and that's a recent thing, so you probably didn't know that we were doing that thing. That kind of idea. Also, I think that it might be interesting to maybe also get something from the handmade community, like for example, Orca could be interesting. I don't remember if we did something with Orca on Zig Showtime. I'm blanking now, but that seems interesting and relevant. August is too hot for big work. Yeah, but you know what I think? I think that, so there's this meme about Europeans like not doing anything in summer, but the Americans are like faking it. The Americans act like they're doing stuff in July and August, but they don't. Everything still slows down a lot. Maybe they will still answer the phone. Maybe you call like a European business and they would just then like it will go to you know, nobody will pick up the phone. But then you call the Americans and like the guy answers the phone and they're like, I don't know, on a car ride, a 16-hour-long car ride, because they're going on like a natural park or something, or they're even abroad. So, yeah. You did pair programming with Andrew on Orcan here. Yeah, you're right. That's what we were doing. We were messing around with the build system. And then we kind of lost steam at some point because there were a ton of, yo, Peterino following. Thank you for the follow, Peterino. Are you not a Twitch user normally? Is that what's happening? Oh, can you... I might have security things where you're not allowed to message if you haven't followed. Oh no. Poor Peterino can't speak. Wait. Wait a second. Okay, I'm trying to VIP you. I'm not sure if I'm able to. You know what? Fuck it. You're a mod now. Oh no, I'm clicking it and it's not doing anything. Uh-oh. I have account shenanigans to fix. Oh god. He wrote on YouTube. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to this. No, so this is correct. So what's an element here then? What is an element? It's an HTML node. Oh, right. I already said it correctly. Okay. So that's going to be HTML3.items/0. The first item is always the root node. Now, yeah, what do we do with errors? I'm thinking that we could run our stuff in the presence of HTML errors. That's actually a very interesting design idea. Man, oh my god, I'm in such a good position. So normally, if you don't have any kind of error recovery, in the presence of a previous error, you just can't do anything. But here, we actually build the AST, even in the presence of errors. We already do it because, like, if you even just look at this, like, this and then this. You see, we have all these errors, but we don't give up. We keep parsing. So the question is, with the HTML in this state, should we try to build a AST for the templating language? Or should we basically be in two modes? Either you have an HTML error, which basically turns off all the higher level templating parsing, and so even like errors, or we don't, and you get both kinds of errors at once. That's a user experience thing, and I think it's really, really, really interesting. To some degree, you know how in Zig, when you have syntax errors, you don't get semantic errors. So when you're developing Zig, you don't have that kind of experience. But maybe it wouldn't be bad, or maybe it would be confusing. The templating errors could easily be caused by HTML errors. That is very true. Yes. Yeah, for one mistake, two errors. That is true. That is totally true. We could be spamming a bunch of errors, which could very well also be, false positives. But at the same time, look at the errors that we have in here. What we have in here, like, look at this fairly messed up current state. The fairly messed up current state actually wouldn't really impede templating stuff all that much. Because the templating would, like, we still are able to make sense of these attributes. We still are able to make sense of the general structure of the document. I guess, you know what? I guess it would have to be something like this. This where the error more semantically has a meaning with what's going on. You know what? I feel like that these concerns are generally true and might make a lot of sense in Zig, but there's also a lot of redundancy in HTML, and it might be that it's enough redundancy to still not be bad. I do wish Zig was more gung-ho, keeping going to collect more errors. Yeah. I think that the Zig parser has some logic to recover for certain kinds of errors, but it's kind of ad hoc. And it kind of works to some degree, but it's not fully, like, generalized as you would want, I don't know, like the parser for a language server to work. The spec compliant HTML tokenizer, though, has a ton of recoveries, and you can make a sense of a lot of things thanks to it, even in the presence of errors. Because, like, generally speaking, most errors in HTML are not even all that bad. So I don't know. Well, you know what? In any case, it's not like this is like a huge difference where we make a choice now and then nothing else, and then there's going to be huge ramifications afterwards. I guess the idea is, do we complain right away or not? Or even better, we probably want a list of nodes, and we expect whoever calls us to not call us in the presence of errors, so it should be fine. In any case, grab the first element, that's the root. Now, here we have a concept of cursor. Oh, look at this also. Previously, I was pumping in here like all the error checking. Oh god, like HTML syntax error. No. This doesn't exist anymore. It's not an HTML syntax error anymore. Man, this is so good. With the Zig build check target and ZLS build on save, Zig mostly shows you the next error instantly. Yeah. Okay, so man, guess what? We don't do this anymore. We look at the depth that we're at. We make sure that the node that we're at is an element. Which in our case we kind of don't. Guess we do this. We have to implement the cursor though. Also, I wouldn't call this item, I would call it HTML node. Actually, why am I even assigning it to something else? What was I assigning it earlier? I guess I was building another different type. Yeah, there's a bunch of cursed parsing logic in here that I'm not so sure about anymore, but whatever. What was the problem there? Use an identifier element. Yeah. Also, I think that we should return a node. Do we return it by copy or by pointer? I don't know. In any case, okay, so basically here we're saying, okay, we want to return a new node for this guy. How do we know this? Ensure that the node always points and the node more deeply nested than our current HTML node. Okay. Node debug. Uh-oh, that's also not implemented. Build node. What does build node do? It must do a bunch of validation, right? Yeah.
You better turn up. You better be there when I shake. Watch me.
Why do we allocate it here? Wait, no, we don't allocate it there. What am I doing? What am I saying? We ain't allocating shit. We're just making a new node. So here we make it on the stack as we build it partially and do validation, and then we only keep allocated at the end. Yes. Is this a special tag? Yeah, look, I was grabbing star tag and tag name. Oh god. Oh man, this code is gonna be so much fucking better now. That's gonna be so good. Okay, then programming errors. Let's see. Element missing self-closing tag. Yeah. You know what? We need to yeah, okay, it's fine. I think we can delete this stuff, but then at some point we'll need to recover all the error messages that we were giving to people, because the error messages were giving context to people, and now we currently just say missing end tag and like just don't say anything else other than that. Okay, map of attributes seen. String hash map. We need to do case insensitive mapping checking. We're not doing it case insensitively. And actually, wait, why are we making a map of scene attributes? Why do we even care? It's not our job to do this anymore. How do you like Helix, and did you switch from NeoVim? Yes, I was using NeoVim at some point. I like it because I like Helix because I don't have to fiddle with it too much, and because it has more sane key bindings. I feel like the key bindings in Helix make way more sense. But other than that, they're both fine. Like, it's probably more valuable to know NeoVim than Helix. I mean, I'm saying probably, but it's like almost definitely. That said, Helix is what helped me ease into model editors, so I'm sticking with it for a while more. We'll see at some point. Like, I like also these menus that tell you what you can do, and there's ways of getting the same behavior for NeoVim, but then things are all over the place. Like, you press G, which in Helix is the go-to mode that allows you to, you know, go to shit. But then you try to do the same with NeoVim, and like G has some go-to behavior, some other random crap in there, and nothing makes sense. Also, GW is pretty cool. Oops. Basically, it gives a 2-letter name to every token, and it allows you to jump around. Not bad. So here we're doing the duplicate attribute validation. Should we? Yeah, I'm sure the NeoVim has the same, of course. Thank you. I suspect that there's nothing that Helix does that NeoVim cannot do. Either through an extension or in a more janky way. Sometimes less janky, also. So I feel like I don't care about this anymore. Because we can detect duplicate attributes already. Although we are not being good boys and, for example, pointing out what the previous instance was. We are not doing that anymore. So we need to wire back in all this diagnostic stuff. But it's not in here anymore. It's not in the AST building logic. It has to be elsewhere. So I'm gonna delete this. Now, here I have all these is that, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Is name string ID. Hey, Peterino. Let's go. Editor enhancement, entrenchment. Editor entrenchment is real. After a few years, you always end up really customizing and learning all the ins and outs of an editor. Makes it hard to switch. Yeah, but the point is that I just don't want to do this. Like, I got tired of fuzzing with stuff. I got tired of fuzzing with Linux. I got tired of fuzzing with shit. I used to fuzz with Emacs a lot when I was in university. I don't want to do that anymore. I just want the thing to work decently out of the box. So that's what I'm getting from Helix. It's most of the value that it provides to me, to be honest. Okay, so if the name is an ID, then we start switching on it and making decisions about things. Now, oh, this is good. So for example, this is more interesting. Now here we are basically complaining if the attribute doesn't have a value. And this makes more sense. Yes, for us, it's a problem if the attribute doesn't have a failure, or doesn't have a value. So we should do that. It's funny that I had errors for, oh, that's interesting. I had like good errors for more, for stuff that didn't have to do with our system specifically. Huh. Actually, you know what? I'm not sure. I'm starting to think that ID must have a value also for HTML. Maybe this is another example of an HTML error instead of a templating language error. You know, we should validate this hypothesis. Where like to do check if this is a general HTML error. Okay, let's see. Value, an escape, maybe code, blah, blah, blah. Starts with a $sign. Blah, blah, blah. Unreachable panic. To do explain blocks can have scripted ID alters. We can only statically analyze non-script IDs. To do implement this in a way that can account for branching. Oh god, okay. We'll take a look at that eventually. Why don't I have a build error? There is no way this thing is building. So where's my errors? Oh wait, it's the build test. Oh, I get it. We're back to building, but now the test is the problem. Now that's unfortunate. I guess that we can hack ZLS. Can we? LSP workspace command. Restart. Stop. Clipboard paste command. Primary. No active language servers for this document support workspace commands. Oh fuck. Okay, so there's LSP stuff that is not implemented in here. How do we want to do this? Guess we go and temporarily change stuff inside the ZLS. Oh, right, it's not there. I don't remember. I don't think this is it. Oh, there we go. I found it. And now we got the diagnostic. Let's go. So, node is not marked pub. Oh shit. Clear indicator that we're not doing things that we're not used to. Like these APIs are not really being exercised yet. Yeah, it's not called managed anymore. It's called unescaped An escaped string? An escaped value? Okay, let's just go find out what it is. An escaped slice. Oh yeah, that's a good name. Okay, only 8,000 more errors everywhere. Oh no, in our tests. Oh no. Try ast.init. Expected file arguments found 4. Arena, error writer, template name, template path, source. Oh no, these guys don't even have the error writer. I think. Oh god, it's gonna complain about something else as soon as I'm done repeating this thing 10,000 times. Went down a rabbit hole from your previous reading through this and this. It's complicated. Let's see what is the issue. Yeah. Why are people commenting still like last week? What? I think we made async as the actual function to transform a sync function into an async one. What? I guess. Why not? Yeah, do it. So you know what? We can sympathize a little bit. You know, you're a user of something, the thing is complicated, you have opinions from a user perspective, and you don't have the knowledge to really be able to provide a full-fledged solution. And at least you can, you know, judge things from what you do know. Problem is, these kind of things, as a user, you know, like a tiny percentage of, there's like an iceberg, like a submerged iceberg of complexity behind async. So just proposing like a syntactical, like a top level, like a porcelain level type of syntax thing, is like, there's like a ton of implications behind this that I believe the author has no knowledge of. And yeah, like there's no way this works. What is this? What is this? In any case, yeah, such is life. It's not items, it's nodes. No field or member functioning cursor in AST.node. Okay, yeah, we got back to, I was kind of like randomly fixing things here and there, but not in a way that made, like, it was improving things, but not in a way that like was systematically, you know, pushing forward the line of up to which point it compiles. I was kind of massaging things, but now that we have arrows back. Yeah, now we basically now the compiler is like taking us more seriously and like complaining for things that previously wasn't, which is fair. Yeah, right now there's no cursor function because the only cursor implementation that we have is in sitter. And the question is, do we copy this verbatim? I think we should copy this verbatim and adapt it.
No, I can't let go. 'Cause baby, I just want you. So I get a little drunk on a Tuesday night. Call my friends, staying up all night so I don't just lay and think about you. It's okay, but I'm all messed up. Don't know what to do to forget about you.
We have the formatter. We have a bunch of tests. And then we have get range. Oh god. Okay, cursor. So I think the current, I guess, the state that it needs to keep in mind is IDX. And whether we're going inside or outside. Return optional node. TS node is null.
Tell me where are you now? Are you walking in your sleep? 'Cause this is like a dream, and you're standing next to me. But it's too dark, too dark, too dark. I can barely see your face. It's too dark, too dark.
Oh, wait a second.
This is too hard.
We need to give it also the list of items. Otherwise, it has to be passed in every single time, which I think kind of sucks. Or maybe not. Uh, okay. Field name. That shit doesn't exist anymore. Field ID doesn't exist anymore. Parent. Also, this should not be optional. Parent is always there. Like, you just should not be calling parent on root. I think the assertion is better than making this optional. Next sibling, it's fine. I don't remember, something like this. What's it called? Next IDX, yeah. Oh shit, fuck, I need my edits, unfortunately. Maybe we should add a get node from ID, like a private function. Because I feel like I will have to repeat this pattern a lot. Yeah, you know what? I'll do it. Oh, I guess you could read that in the code. Ooh, last child. Oh, that hurts. Last child hurts because we don't have, we need to right now. Last child is just pain. Just pain. Well, we could do next sibling and then go back. You know what? Let's leave it as planning for now. We have to decide what to do with it. That's for sure. Okay, child. I guess that's just at. Depth. Ooh. That doesn't need to be a function anymore. Reset. Fuck, I don't know, man. Resets on a node. That's weird. Copy. There you go. What do we what? No need for this anymore. Just copy it manually, I guess. Deinit. Nothing to deinit. Allows to use the cursor in a DSF style iterator. Yes.
I'm hoping what I said could make you change your mind. Though it doesn't
Precursor go to parent. So while parent
hands are tied. I'm trying to walk across the bridges that I've burned. My only way to you is gone.
I guess. I'm messing this logic up hardcore. Maybe. Maybe not.
I know I'm blind, but I hear symphonies of your heartbeat.
Pointless discard of function parameter. Oh. Okay. And right, this thing doesn't have a cursor function. Oh fuck, but given a node. Given a node? Oh, I guess that's fine. We wouldn't have all the nodes though. I don't think we should call cursor on a random node anymore, should we? But it might be still useful. Well, whatever. Whatever. Right, but what's my IDX at this point? Fuck, that's the problem. I don't know what my index is. I guess I could try to ask somebody. I guess I could go next, but I don't have prev. I could go up. That sucks. So with this API, we have trouble. You know what? Let's do it with an IDX. I think that's it. I don't think it needs anything else. Okay, this API is clearly not great. I need to take a look at it. The thing is, these things were pointers originally, and so when you have pointers, you can navigate inside that like a data structure without needing anything else. But now these things are items in an array. I could talk about them in terms of pointers. If I pass around pointers to them, then I can do math on the pointer to figure out at which index we are. I can derive an index from a pointer. But having the value, you can't go easily from the value to the index. So maybe the value should also contain the index. Maybe the cursor itself should not only return an value, but also the index itself as well. But you know what? It's fine. I guess we can query the cursor for the current index value. So let's make it like this. It should be fine. So we can do... Oh, the